Example of what I'm calling Sullivanian time in the timeline. I have no idea if this was actually your idea that you were talking about, but it was what I took away from um, your mentioning of the idea that you had in response to Dr. Bowen asking you to come up with an assessment tool or framework or something. So this is just a demo here. Got two different people, say 2 generations apart, maybe more, and just a few events added here, and basically I've added the same events to their to each of their timelines. You can see here some for Martha, some for Roberta. Now, if you go into the visual timeline, I've added, so now that actually this should be Roberta. I have these two tags set up here, and I don't need to get into the details there, but basically I set all of Roberta's events to have the Roberta tag. So when you click that, it just shows those events. And then I have all the Martha events on the Martha tag. And so what it does then, then I have this checkbox for Sullivanian time. Okay. And if it's unchecked, then it just lays them out so it just stretches them out on their own time scale. So one of them may be, say, it may be 2 years from left to right. The other one might be like 10 years from left to right. It depends on how many events you have in there in the time span. Anyway, that doesn't matter. What matters is when you click Sullivanian time, it lays them out so that if you take each separate timeline and the first event from that timeline is the starting point, it makes sure that they're using the same scale, so that the same size on the screen represents 1 year, 10 years, etc. So that way you could compare the timeline between two different lives. So you can see here they were both born at the beginning of their timeline, 1932 for Martha, 2000 for Roberta, and then at 18 each graduated high school right at the same time, and then at in their early 20s they got Martha had her first child at 22, and then at 22 Roberta had her first job, and then she had her first child at 24. So then again, if I deselect these tags, then it goes back to the standard timeline where it just shows all the events in the entire family. So you can see Martha's events here on the left and Roberta's events here on the right, and the time span in between. Going back to the other way, with Sullivanian time checked, then you can compare the lifespans of the two lives. And I'd thought that I really need to do this for my my timeline, my brother's timeline, and my dad's timeline, especially for my timeline and my brother's timeline, because he's getting really nailed by the projection process right now, and it's just incredible how it's uncanny, the resemblance of his timeline versus mine, following high school graduation. And so maybe I'll make a demo of that once I get the data entered. Anyway, I just thought I'd send this on to you. I think it's a really, really interesting idea, and it makes use of this timeline for a change, for something really, for a unique way of looking at this data in a different way. So anyway, let me know what you think. See ya.